There's a tab in your company's software that nobody opens anymore, not because the work stopped, because something else is doing it now. Last year, the story was a chatbot you could talk to, a smart box that waited for your question. This year, quietly, it stopped waiting. It started working, filing the ticket, shipping the change, running the process from start to finish, while the tab you used to open for it sat untouched. No announcement, no layoff memo, just a piece of software that used to need a person and now needs an agent. This is what the replacement of software actually looks like. Not a robot at a desk, but a job that quietly moved. This is the control room, where we watch the systems shift underneath the headlines without the hype or the fear. Today, what an AI agent actually does to the software you already use and how much of it is real. Start with the difference because it's the whole story. A chatbot sits behind an input box. You ask, it answers, and then you do the work. You take its reply and go file the thing yourself. An agent is that same underlying model, but wired into your tools, your data, and your approvals. You give it a goal instead of a question, and it runs a loop. It observes the situation, makes a plan, takes an action, checks whether that action worked, and adjusts. The model is still the engine. The difference is that it's now holding the wheel. In practice, that looks remarkably ordinary. A coding agent opens the ticket, writes the change, runs the tests, and opens the request for a human to review. A customer service agent reads the case, pulls up the order, issues the refund, and closes the conversation. An operations agent watches a queue and runs the workflow that used to be 6 browser tabs, a spreadsheet, and a checklist. Notice what didn't happen in any of those. The person didn't get slower, or worse, or pushed aside. The fragmented stack of tools they were holding together by hand is collapsing into one thing they direct. The friction was always in the seams between the apps, and the agent lives in the seams, and it is spreading faster than almost anyone planned for. In 2025, fewer than 5% of enterprise software applications had a task-specific agent inside them. Gartner's estimate for the end of 2026 is 40%, from under 5 to 40 in a single year. That's not a forecast about some distant future, it's a description of the year you're in. You can see it most clearly in what the incumbents now sell. Salesforce, a company that spent 25 years selling a database you log into, passed $800 million in annual recurring revenue on its agent product alone, up 169% in a single year. And it stopped describing itself as a database company. It tells its whole story now as an agent company. Microsoft reported that 160,000 organizations built more than 400,000 custom agents on its platform in a single quarter, and that the pace had more than doubled from the quarter before. Sit with those numbers for a second. Those aren't chatbot numbers. Nobody builds 400,000 chatbots in 3 months. They're the numbers of companies racing to put an agent inside every workflow they already own. And it isn't 1 or 2 vendors. Across enterprise software, the cloud platforms, the productivity suites, the help desks, the pitch quietly shifted in about a year from talk to your data to let it act on your data. The software you log into every morning is being rebuilt underneath you, around the thing that does the task for you. Now the part the headline hides. And the reason this is an observation, not a sales pitch. Almost every large company has deployed an agent somewhere. Far fewer actually run one in production, at real scale, doing real work every day. By several independent 2026 reports, somewhere around 88% of agent projects are stuck in what one of them calls pilot purgatory. Built, demonstrated, approved, even funded, and then never actually put to work. The honest range for what counts as in production runs from about 1 in 10 at genuine scale to roughly half by the loosest definitions. And the number depends entirely on what you're willing to count. That gap isn't a mystery. Pilots die in the same 3 places every time. They die in the integration, where a demo that worked on clean data meets the real system and all of its mess. They die in trust, where no one is willing to let the agent act without a human checking every step, which quietly erases the savings that justified it. And they die in control, because handing a piece of software the power to actually do things without the guardrails to govern it is a risk most companies won't take twice. But here is the other half of the truth, the part that keeps this from being a debunk. The agents that do make it through tend to pay. The teams that get one past the pilot report real, measurable returns, which is exactly why the spending keeps climbing straight through the disappointment. So the picture isn't it works, and it isn't it's all hype. It's a technology that genuinely does the work, for the minority of teams disciplined enough to get it past the demo. If you want the shift underneath the headlines every week, subscribe. The Control Room, the Signal, every week. Step back and follow what's actually happening to the value, because that's the part that outlasts the hype cycle. When an agent absorbs the job a software seat used to do, the work doesn't vanish. It relocates. It moves off the app you pay a per-seat fee for and onto the agent layer and into the infrastructure underneath it, the orchestration that decides what the agent does next, the retrieval that feeds it your data, the monitoring and the guardrails that make it reliable enough to trust. None of that shows up on the software invoice you already know. By one set of 2026 cost reports, roughly 72% of what enterprises now spend running AI sits outside the model bill entirely. The model is the cheap, visible part. The expensive part is everything that makes it safe to let near a real business. And then the restraint, because it matters more than the hype. Gartner expects more than 40% of agentic AI projects to be canceled by the end of 2027, killed by cost, by value. No one could tie to a number that moved, or by the controls it takes to run them safely. That's not the technology failing. That's the cull, the hard middle of every transformation, where the easy demos meet the hard reality, and most of them don't survive it. So the quiet question under all of this isn't whether agents are coming. They're already here, in the minority of workflows that made it through. The real question is the one that tab you stopped opening already answered for you. If the agent does the job, what exactly are you still paying the software for? The replacement of software was never going to look like a robot at a desk. It looks like a tab nobody opens, a workflow that runs itself overnight, a seat that quietly stopped needing a person to fill it. Most of what's being built is still stuck in the pilot, and a good deal of it will be canceled before it ever ships. But some of it already works, and that part is moving the work and the money somewhere most people aren't looking yet, off the app and onto the agent that does the job. That's the shift underneath the headline. Not that software is dead, but that the thing you were really paying it for is quietly changing hands. This is the control room. Here is the pattern. The implications are yours. One last thing, on purpose. The voice you've heard is AI. The images are AI generated or open licensed. Every figure was researched and checked by a human, and every source is named in the description. The control room, the signal, every week.